The secret deal that haunted Nkosana's life. How one traditional healer bargained with a goblin. Nkosana, a once famous and respected traditional healer, had fallen from grace. His name was no longer spoken with reverence, and his fame had dried up. Seeking a way to regain his former glory, Nkosana ventured deep into the forest, in search of rare and potent herbs. As he walked, his thoughts were consumed with the memories of his past successes, and the desire to once again be recognized as a master of his craft. Suddenly, Nkosana heard a strange noise coming from a nearby clearing. The sound was high-pitched and sinister, and he felt a chill run down his spine. He hesitated, unsure whether to investigate or to continue his search for herbs. But his curiosity got the better of him, and he cautiously approached the clearing. As he stepped into the open space, he saw a small, ugly creature perched on a rock. It had pointed ears, crooked teeth, and eyes that glinted with a wicked light. Nkosana recognized it as a goblin, a mischievous being, known for its love of causing trouble. "Who are you?" Nkosana asked, his voice firm but wary. "My name is Baka," the creature cackled. "And I have an offer for you, human. I can give you what you seek, the fame and respect that you once had. But you must give me something in return." Nkosana was hesitant. He knew that dealing with goblins could be dangerous, and that their promises were often unreliable. But the lure of regaining his former glory was too great to ignore. "What do you want in return?" he asked cautiously. The goblin looked at him with a mischievous smile. "I will name my price when the time comes," it said cryptically. Nkosana hesitated for a moment, feeling a sense of unease growing within him. But the promise of his former glory was too great to resist. "Very well. I agree to your terms," he said finally. The goblin cackled with glee, pleased to have struck a deal with the desperate healer. The few weeks that followed were a whirlwind of success for Nkosana. People came from far and wide to consult with him, seeking remedies for a variety of ailments that he cured with ease. He had healed broken bones, treated infections, and even cured the village chief's son of a mysterious illness that no one else could heal. In return for his services, Nkosana received a bounty of gifts, cattle, goats, and even gold, from his grateful patients. But the promised payback always loomed over his head, and he knew that he had to find the goblin again soon, to fulfill his end of the bargain. The goblin had given him a small portion of a potent substance, which he would rub onto his hands every day before starting his work. The substance enhanced his healing powers, allowing him to cure even the most stubborn of illnesses. Nkosana looked at the bottle, his heart sinking as he realized that it was almost empty. He knew that he had to find the goblin soon before his powers waned, and he was unable to fulfill his duties as a healer. As Nkosana made his way through the dense forest, a sense of foreboding began to wash over him. He could feel the goblin's presence before he even saw it. When the small, green-skinned creature stepped out from behind a tree, Nkosana's heart quickened. "Well, look who it is," the goblin cackled, its pointy ears twitching with excitement. "The famous healer, back for more of my magic, I see." "Yes. I need more of your potion," Nkosana said, trying to hide his unease. The goblin's eyes gleamed with delight. "Of course you do," it said, grinning wickedly. "But everything comes at a price, my dear healer. What will you give me?" The goblin's face lit up with greed, as Nkosana handed over the pouch filled with gold and precious stones. Gold was the goblin's most prized possession, and it loved nothing more than to hoard it away in its underground lair. The sight of the glittering treasure was enough to make the goblin forget about the rest of the world. As the goblin pocketed the pouch, it reached into its cloak and pulled out a small vial filled with a strange, glowing liquid. "Here," it said, holding out the vial to Nkosana. "This one is even more powerful than the last. Use it wisely." Nkosana's heart sank as he saw the small size of the vial. He knew that it wouldn't last long, and that he would have to return to the forest soon to meet with the goblin. But he took the vial nonetheless, knowing that he needed it to continue his work as a healer. "Thank you," Nkosana said, tucking the vial safely into his pocket. "I will use it wisely." The goblin grinned wickedly, its eyes glittering with a mischievous light. "I know you will," it said, before disappearing into the forest once again. In the days that followed, Nkosana's fame spread like wildfire. The goblin had indeed delivered on its promise. The new portion was so potent that Nkosana hardly had to touch his patients to heal them. He could simply speak, and they would be cured. Nkosana had never felt so powerful. Traditional healers from far and wide came to witness his abilities, some even seeking his guidance on how to be as skilled as he was. The gold and gifts he received from his patients piled up, but Nkosana knew that he was still indebted to the goblin. He couldn't shake off the feeling that his newfound success will come at a heavy cost. Nkosana felt his heart sink as he finally heard the goblin's request. He had brought more gold than last time, but it seemed like the goblin had something else in mind. The creature took the gold with a grin, its pointy ears twitching with pleasure. "You have been generous with your gifts, healer," it said. "Now it's time for me to name my price." Nkosana braced himself, fearing the worst. But he was not prepared for what the goblin said next. "I want your daughter, Naya," it said, its green eyes glinting in the dim light of the forest. "She is a beautiful young girl, and I have taken a liking to her. Bring her to me at this location tomorrow night, and our deal will be complete." Nkosana felt his heart drop at the goblin's demand. "My daughter," he whispered, feeling faint. "I cannot do that." The goblin cackled, its eyes gleaming with malice. "That is the price you must pay," it said. "Or would you rather give up your fame and fortune?" Nkosana clenched his jaw, his mind racing. He couldn't give up everything he had worked for, but he couldn't sacrifice his daughter either. "Please," he pleaded with the goblin. "There must be something else I can give you." But the goblin shook its head, its pointy ears twitching. "No. The girl is what I want," it said firmly. Nkosana felt as if the ground had opened up beneath him. His daughter was his everything, and the thought of handing her over to a mischievous goblin filled him with dread. But he knew that he had no choice. He had made a deal with the creature, and he had to honor it. With a heavy heart, he nodded his agreement and left the forest, wondering how he was going to tell Naya the news. Nkosana arrived home feeling heavy-hearted. As he entered his hut, he saw Naya entertaining the people who had come for healing. Her beautiful voice filled the room, and her gentle spirit uplifted everyone's mood. Nkosana slumped onto a chair, gazing at his daughter with tears in his eyes. He knew what he had to do, but he couldn't bring himself to tell her. After the crowd dispersed, Nkosana called Naya over, and asked her to prepare for a trip deep into the forest, the following day to collect herbs. Naya was delighted to hear this, as she loved exploring the forest with her father, and learning about the various plants and their medicinal properties. She began packing some supplies for the journey, humming a tune to herself as she worked. As she bustled around the room, Nkosana watched her with a heavy heart. Nkosana and Naya made their way deep into the forest, the trees thickening around them as they walked. As they neared the goblin's lair, Naya's steps faltered and she tried to pull away from her father's grip. "What is that?" she whispered, pointing at the gnarled creature before them. Nkosana tightened his hold on her arm. "It's nothing, just a forest spirit. Don't be afraid." The goblin cackled at Nkosana's words. "Oh, so you didn't tell her about our little deal? How cowardly of you." Nkosana hung his head, ashamed. "I couldn't bear to burden her with this knowledge," he muttered. The goblin snickered. "Well, it's too late now. Give me what you owe me." Suddenly, Naya was lifted off her feet and pulled deep into the forest, her body unable to resist the goblin's magic. All she could do was sing, her voice echoing off the trees as she was taken farther and farther away from her father. Nkosana felt a sense of despair wash over him, knowing that he had lost his daughter to the cunning goblin. Years passed, and Nkosana continued to heal the sick and injured with the help of the goblin's potent potions. But every time he ventured into the forest, he could still hear Naya's voice echoing in the distance, singing a haunting and mournful tune. He had made a deal with the goblin, sacrificing his own daughter for the sake of his own success. This was a burden he would have to bear for the rest of his life. Sometimes, when you are deep in the forest of the savannah, you can still hear Naya's voice fading into the forest, singing a sad song that echoes through the trees. It serves as a reminder of the price of making deals with mischievous and cunning creatures, and the consequences that come with seeking power at any cost. Thank you for watching this story, and we hope you enjoyed it. Have you heard any similar stories before? Share them with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Tales of the Savannah for more exciting stories. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time, in the Savannah.